Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you guys for joining us again. So today we are talking about how to empower people to take responsibilities off your plate. As leaders, we have tons of responsibility, and as business owners, you start out having 100% of the responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm founding a company, when I'm starting what I'm doing, when I'm running a company, or I'm working for someone and I've got other people working for me, either way, as I'm growing as a company, I'm having to take responsibilities and start giving them out to other people because there's only so much time in my day, right? And so how do you do that the right way to where it allows you to grow and also be better as a company?
Right. And I think the question is, why would I want to empower people?
Yeah.
Right. What's the difference between just bringing somebody in and telling them a job responsibility and having them do it, or having somebody that I have empowered to do a job?
Yep.
And I think the big difference is the motivation of hiring somebody.
Yep.
Right. So talk to me about the differences in those things when I'm hiring somebody, if I'm hiring just an employee to do a job, or I'm hiring somebody that I want to empower to take things off my plate. What's the difference?
Yeah. So this is one of the biggest things in ProServe that we talk about with anyone that we're coaching or helping, consulting, and understanding hiring and growing your company. The biggest thing that people do wrong when hiring people that starts everything off on the wrong direction is I look and I say, hey, I got a lot of work. I need help. You want to come work for me? Great. Let's go do this.
I can hire somebody to do the things I don't want to do.
Yes. And so, hey, I don't want to run around and take photos of my properties once we finish the renovation. So you're going to start doing that for me, and you're going to also be running this, and hey, run this materials over there. And so I build this job for you out of necessity and need of overflow from me.
Or, I mean, a lot of times it comes from, our wives that we've been working 80, 90, 100-hour weeks.
Yep.
And we're not home, we're not there. And it's like, you've got to be home more. Like, well, I can't. But if I hire somebody, I can have them do 10, 20, 30, 40 hours of this, which means that I should only be working 50 or 40 hours, something like that.
And it never works that way I still have all the same responsibilities. And now I've put something more on my plate saying, all right, I'm going to hire this guy, and now I have to make sure that he's doing his job. So now I've got a secondary job making sure that you're doing your job, and I still have all my responsibilities.
Right.
So the whole mindset in hiring and growing a team and even bringing your wife to come on and do the accounting or the books, or anyone that's coming in to take responsibility inside of the company, how do we start the mindset with them when we're hiring them and when we're looking for them and when we're interviewing them? How do we start with the mindset of, you are going to be independent here, and I'm going to duplicate myself in this company by hiring you, and you're going to have responsibilities that I don't have, that you're going to be 100% responsible for, and they're going to be on your plate. And so when I'm thinking that way, when I'm interviewing that way, when I'm looking long term, saying, I'm not going to get to 15 employees if I'm hiring 14 other assistants.
Yep.
To grow to that level, to grow to have 4 employees, 5 employees, they each have to have their own job, and something has to come off your plate to make room to manage the new employee.
Right.
And so how do we set that up? How do we look at that? But the why of why it matters so much is because the reason you're hiring is to take stuff off your plate so you can do more with the same amount of effort.
Yeah.
And to hire that way is so important, because when you don't, it's a short-term hire that's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost you a lot more time, and it doesn't work out that way.
And I think another big piece of that is there's kind of 2 ways of growing a company. You grow a company by bringing on assistants that help you do what you do, to be able to max out your capacity.
Yep.
But the growth of your business will max at your ability, and as much as you as the pivotal person in the company can handle. That's where your company is going to max out.
Yep.
Because all you have is a bunch of assistants that are helping you, create a little bit of extra time here, or do things a little bit more efficiently. But it all is dependent on your capacity.
Yeah.
growing a company where you're bringing in people and you are delegating out roles, responsibilities, jobs that are coming off of your plate, and you're giving them the power and autonomy to run and do that well, you're growing a company that will then become bigger than you.
Yep.
And that's a huge statement. Growing a company that becomes bigger than you, the mindset of, I don't want the company to only be as big as I can be.
Yeah.
I want the company to grow bigger than I could ever be by myself.
Yeah, and we've had other podcasts covering how to hiring the right people. We've had other podcasts about leadership and how to lead others. This is specifically about, all right, we're going to give you guys examples of how we did it right and how we did it wrong. Of, I'm going to hire you to come in, and these are your responsibilities, and now I'm not in charge of this, but you are.
Right.
But I also don't want to put you on an island where you don't have support. But how do we manage that? So we're going to dive into that today, talking through exact execution of how to start giving responsibilities out to others while I can still have full control of the company, yet I might not have full control of this one little aspect that you are going to own and take responsibility for.
Right.
So Jared, where does that start? How do I start thinking through that mindset?
Well, there's when we've thought through empowering people, there's two major pieces of it. The first one is the understanding, the clarity of what is the job, and the second one is giving them the authority, right? Giving them the power, the ability that they understand that you're choosing to trust them, that I trust this person to handle this work.
Yep.
And I think those are two major components. When we're talking about the first piece, clarity, that starts day one.
Yep.
What is your job? Your job is, here are your job roles when you bring somebody in, whether it's your wife to come run the books, or you're bringing in a project manager, or whoever it is within your company, having a job description that has specific tangibles, that here is the expectation of your job.
Yep.
Right? Then at this is what success is that by doing this, if you're able to achieve these things, you will be successful. So creating the goal of, by executing these things, it will get us to this goal.
Yeah.
And then the third piece of that, I'm going to actually show you how I do that, right? So as an office manager or whoever it is, here are the executable things in your job. Here is how I actually go about them.
Yep.
Here are the requirements. As a project manager in our GC company, 2 emails, 2 communication points per week is a standard that you have to do. And those are the things that we spell out. So it's very, very clear the expectations of the job and what success means. And we've given them, let me show you the road that I walk to get from this to that successful place.
Yep.
Right? Setting it up to be very, very clear for them on the front end.
So let's break that down. Step one, when I'm looking at, these are everything you're going to be doing. I'm hiring you as a project manager. You're coming in. I'm saying, okay, first you're going to be writing this estimate, this, and this. Second, you're going to be doing this. Once I have the list of everything you're going to be doing as my employee, before I've hired you, before I've even interviewed you, I'm going to write that list out. Next thing, and this is the most important thing, I'm going to look at my job description and what I'm doing. And I'm going to see where the wires are crossed, where we have the same responsibility. Because a lot of times I might have a job description for you, but I also might have the exact same job description for me. We're going to do it hand in hand.
Or crossover or whatever.
Which means I'm going to be micromanaging you. You're going to be messing me up because you don't know as much as me about this client, so I'm just going to handle it. And there's this meshing of your job and my job to where you're going to get blamed for everything. I'm going to get frustrated. You're not going to feel independent to make your own decisions because, well, Clark's just going to fix it. He's just going to come in and do it the way he wants to do it. So why would I even try, right? And so the very first step is saying, this is what you're responsible for. These are the things that you are going to, in a matter of months, have full responsibility to make the decision for.
Right.
But I'm also going to hold you accountable in meetings to say, hey, what happened this week with this? How is that working? And I'm going to help mold you into doing that job the way that my company wants it done, that this is how we do it the right way. I'm going to coach you up on those things.
Which I think that part is really important, because you can make the mistake of, I spelled out the responsibilities for you. Now go out on the island by yourself. And they're out there by themselves on an island, and having I'm not going to be grabbing the wheel and steering for you. That's your job.
Yep.
But we're going to, knowing that we're going to have regular meetings, that we can talk about this after the fact. We can look back in and say, okay, so talk to me about how that worked. Blah, blah. And so they have the autonomy to go out and run the direction and achieve it the way that they think is best. But they also know that they have the support of coming back in and having regular meetings to talk through it.
That's right. So let's give a couple examples of this being done well internally for us and this being done not well internally for us, right? So I think one of the best places to start is at the beginning with my very first hire, which was actually not Jared. Jared was my first hire when we started growing the company. I had one hire before him. It didn't work out, and then I was by myself again.
That's why we don't qualify it as a hire.
Yeah, it was a test of how to do it.
It was learning.
It was a learning experience. But I hired that guy. He came in, and I said, "This is what you're going to do." And he started doing that work. And every time that we had any sort of responsibility or decision making, he brought it to me, and I made the decision, and he went out and did it. And so he was leaning on me constantly to make the decision. So I'm running my jobs. I've given him some clients to run. And so I'm running all of my jobs. And now, because we can do more work with him, we've got a whole nother set of jobs that I now am also managing, answering questions. How are we doing this? What about this? Well, let me step in and talk to the client because you don't know what you're talking about. Let me do this. So I set him up to fail because I didn't give him the tools to do it.
Right.
And then I stepped in and said, I am the tool to fix it. So let me keep fixing it. So I had my job and I had all of his jobs. Where at the end of the day, I was like, it would be easier for me to just run all these jobs myself.
Well, you had an assistant.
Yeah, he was a full-time assistant that I gave a title of project manager to when in reality he was my assistant.
But it didn't have the permission to make decisions on his own.
Correct. And I wanted him to make decisions, and as an entrepreneur guy that started his own company, running myself, I didn't understand the employee mindset of not knowing how much rope I have, not knowing what I can and can't decide. For me, my brain, the way that I interact is like, I'm going to own it, I'm going to run, and we'll apologize later if something messes up. Yeah. So let's go. And I expected others to have that.
Right.
So when he came in and he was looking for me to guide him, it was more of like this guy don't know what he's talking about, so I'm just going to bulldoze over this employee and just get the job done because I'm not, he's losing my respect because he's not stepping up and doing it when I didn't give him the reins. I didn't allow him to do it. I didn't say, hey, here's what you're going to do, and we're going to review it. Ask me a question. Well, let's talk about it. We can go over it. So that was one of the biggest mistakes that I made, I think. And the other mistake is when he did bring stuff to me, it wasn't me to coach him and help him understand it. It was me to do it. He was
you have the answer, and yeah.
And so I had the answer. He says, hey, how do we do X, Y, and Z? I tell him exactly how to do it. Then he goes and does it. So I've spent an hour explaining to him what I want done. He goes and does it. Then I got to circle back later to make sure it was done right. Doesn't work. Inefficient. Never set up that way. So the big difference, and partially it wasn't me. It was the personality of the person I hired.
Sure.
I didn't do the right interview. I didn't do the right checking because he felt most comfortable leaning on me and not making his own mistakes.
Right.
So that was a combination of my fault of not setting him up and his fault of not being an independent person that can run by themselves. So first and foremost, you need to hire the right person and not be scared to fire the wrong person.
Right.
Because I should have fired him earlier than I did. I kept him for a long time because I'd rather have an assistant where I'm having to work than to go backwards.
Right.
And then I let him go eventually, and then a year later, I brought you on, and it was different. I'd set it up differently. We had talked through it, and you were more of an independent worker and can take responsibilities. And so it was a better setup from your end in terms of who I hired.
Right.
And then on my end,
you had learned.
I had learned. I learned I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. So what we did bringing you in was you didn't have any construction knowledge. I mean, you had basic knowledge of how to do things, but you'd never been in an industry before when you started here.
Yeah.
And so what we did bringing you on and how I started unloading that responsibility onto you is I sat down and showed you this is how the job works. This is why I make this decision. This is why I make this decision. This is how I decide to make this decision. Not this is make these decisions, but helping you understand my mindset behind why I'm making those decisions.
But I mean, you showed me at the very beginning when we rode around in a truck at the very beginning, and you showed me from when we got a job from the client, how it worked, how to set the estimate up, how to price things, how to manage the crews, how to set things, how set the dominoes up to run at one after the other, and all the way down to your little like Rubbermaid file system that you had all your files in.
Yep.
You eventually handed that to me and said, "This is my system, and use it."
Yep.
But you also didn't say you have to do it this way.
Yep. Yep.
Right?
It was here are the 7 things in my process that I care about. Everything else, do it. We can debate on the best way to do it, and whatever fits you, and that's great.
Right.
But I care about this communication. I care about invoicing quickly. I care about paying our crews on time. I care, right? And so we laid out, you have to do these things in this process. Outside of that, let's debate. I want you to bring stuff to the table and maybe change how our processes are, because you have a different way to do things and they work better than my process.
Which was great for me because you didn't set me in a desert and say go that way.
Yeah.
Right. You set me on a road with rails on the side of it that said, here are the parameters.
Yep.
These things have to be done. You have to complete the jobs on time.
Yep.
Right. Like whatever the date is that we say we're going to complete the job, they have to be done.
And if
right?
not, we're going to communicate before then with the client. X,
That's
Y,
right.
and Z. Yeah.
We're going to pay our labor, and we're going to pay them we're going to pay them well, and we're going to pay them fast.
Yep.
And we're going to have excellent communication. And one of the big ones was I don't want an email. I think you said I don't want an email going more than 5 minutes without somebody answering it. Right? Which at that time was so highly important to be in front of everybody else of the communication, right? Yep. But you gave me those parameters, which were the guide rails of the road, and then you said, at the end of the day, execute and hit revenue. I don't care how you get to that revenue. You have to maintain these guide rails, but run and go, right? Which was really good for me that you gave me specific direction, but then let me run the road the way that I run it.
And I'm okay with you messing up.
Right.
I'm not okay with you messing up. We talk about it. You figure out the right way to do it, then messing the same thing up again. And that was the difference of, as you coined, a leaner versus a learner.
Right.
I don't want an employee that is leaning on me and I'm having to fix those problems. I don't mind fixing a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fix the same problem 7 times in a row.
Yeah.
So I'll fix the problem and show you, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is why that didn't work. This is how the problem was created. Now, what questions do you have? Go do it. Don't have any more problems with this issue, right? Yeah. And so being able to communicate that and saying, I pass this responsibility to you. You dropped the ball. What happened? Let's dissect it without me yelling at you and calling you names.
Right.
Let's dissect why this failed, and let's not let it fail again.
Well,
and now I can trust that it's happening.
And one of the things that I think early on was learning and difficult for you, and that through the years you've gotten way better at, is you put me in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
But when you saw me going towards something dangerous, you would reach over and grab the wheel and turn it for me.
Yep.
And over the years of learning, you've learned to coach and let people run the road. And sometimes I needed to run off the road to learn what it felt like to run off the road.
Yep.
Like I was never going to be as good as I got without making the mistakes myself.
Yeah.
If you were constantly keeping me from failing, I was never going to really learn, and I wanted to learn, right? And there were some times that the learning came from just listening and you guiding me and coaching me, and there were other times that it was like you allowed me to run off the road. You know, in the background, I know you well enough. You analyzed the cost of it and said, okay, I'm willing.
He's not going to die. He's just going to dent the fender.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, but you allowed that to happen, which was that's what constantly formed me into a good project manager and eventually a good leader of other people, where I got to the place, you can ask every project manager that I ever employed, I told them, in this job, if you're not making mistakes, you're failing.
Yeah.
You will never get fired for making mistakes. You will get fired for making the same mistakes over and over and not learning from your mistakes.
Yep.
That's my expectation.
Yep. One of our big things with new employees is, I don't care if you come ask me how to do something, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you I want you to think about how you're going to fix that problem. Bring it to me, and I'll say, good idea, bad idea, this is why it's a bad idea, or great idea. I don't want to say an employee coming to me and saying, hey, how do I X, Y, and Z? right? I'm not going to give you an answer.
Right.
What I want you to say is, hey, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. I thought about we should do it this way, and I do this, this, and this. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
And then I can help you and coach you on your decision making. I don't want to make your decision for you. I want to coach you and help you progress in how you make decisions and how you're viewing things to where you're growing as an employee and as a person too.
Well, and a part of that is your personality, but it's also you have the vision of direction of, I want to grow this company bigger than myself. Yeah. And you knew that you can't be the puppet master and having to orchestrate everybody and make them do how you've only got two hands and you can only do that so much. You wanted to give people, cut the strings and let people run on their own and coach and guide them. It was that thing that that allowed you to say, I know I have the answer, but I don't want to give them the answer. I need for them to think through it on their own and come up with the answer themselves. Even if the answer that they come up with is not the one that I came up with, allowing them the autonomy to run that and say, okay, good, that's a great way of thinking about it. Go for it.
Yeah, right? I think when we're talking of getting responsibilities off your plate as the leader, right? How do I continue to grow this company where I'm not continuing to grow the responsibilities on my plate? A great example of failure in that and how you have to catch yourself happened literally yesterday with our director of marketing with me. Because for me, it still happens. If you own a company, you're always going to be wanting to grab stuff, right? You always want to just like, well, I'm going to fix it.
It's a default.
I just got to fix it. I got to fix everything. And so I saw something that I didn't even have any background on.
Right.
And so I just start sending text message of, give me the login to the social media and I'm going to do this. I'm going to start doing this. And luckily, we've got great employees here that say, pump the brakes. Can we have a meeting about this first? I'm like, oh, right. So even 16, 17 years into this, I'm still falling back into put it all on my plate. I want to own this. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to start doing this on social media. I shouldn't be doing that. That's not my job. That's not my forte. I'm not great at that. I've got really good employees that are good at that are handling it, that probably have a better plan than what I even know about because we've empowered them to do that. But my first reaction is always, still to this day, I'm just going to take that back and own it on my plate.
Yeah. Well, and I also know that your desire is for the people that work for you and with you. You want them to know that you trust them to do their job. Yeah. Right? And while your default and instinct when you see a roadblock or a problem is to grab it and fix it and do it yourself, you have the thought of like, okay, okay. Yeah. I actually want to re-empower this person. And the interesting thing is that if you're the owner, you can take that, you can have those passwords, whatever you want, but the realization that if you do that, you're actually taking power back from the person that you've given power to, and that's deflating, demotivating, all the stuff, and that's not your goal. Your goal is to empower those people, and if you see that, you want to, okay, I need to, let's have a conversation so I can re-empower them versus me trying to take it back.
And that is a learned skill that happens, that you fail at all the time as a leader, but to hone that skill and learn it to where it's like, hey, they're pushing back. There's a reason. It's because I'm trying to take what I've given them back from them without even a conversation. And to be able to try and key into that and try and ask forgiveness when you're doing it. Right. But also to be able to say, hey, you know what? I still consciously have to think about that. It's not like that just normally happens and that's a skill. That is something as a leader that you have to work on forever and have it on the front of your brain. Wait, I'm doing it again. I'm putting stuff back on my plate that I've already given out. And being able to pump the brakes and allowing people around you to lean in and say, bro, chill. Yeah. Hey, stop.
Well, and this goes back to another podcast, but I think years of working on being self-aware is what allows that, because I know hundreds of guys that I've talked to that in that moment, they're like, I pay your paycheck. You do what I say. What you going? No, you do what I give me this thing. Don't you push back against me, right? And it becomes this power struggle, and years of working on being self-aware of like, oh, I don't need to be in power. He's not coming up against me. There's something instead of it triggering who does he think he is, it's triggering, oh, if there's pushback, there's something here. Let's investigate that.
And who do I think I am?
Yeah, no doubt.
Like it's his full-time job and he went to college for it and knows what he's doing. Yeah. and I'm a freaking general contractor.
Right.
So it's kind of swallowing your pride a little bit of like, I might think I know the right way, but he has hundreds of thousands of views on our TikTok account and I don't.
That's right.
Like I don't, to think that I'm good at everything is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Right. And to think I'm good at most things is absurd.
Right.
Like I'm good at what I'm good at, and knowing what I'm not good at and saying, you know what, that's on you. And even stuff that I was good at that I handed to you when we first started, I might be good at that, but you know what? I can't do that for every job. My vision was a large company doing hundreds of renovations a year, and we can only achieve that if even the things I'm good at are given away, and I teach you the mindset behind why we're good at that as a company.
Well, I mean, talk to every CEO of every large company, corporation across America.
Yeah.
They're going to say, you're never going to hear them say, oh, we got to this size because I'm just good at everything.
Yep.
I'm amazing. Every single one of them in some form or fashion said, I know what I'm good at,
Yep.
and I know what I'm not. And I surrounded myself with people that were way better at the stuff that I'm not good at.
Yep.
Right? Like everybody says that. And that's the thing, knowing yourself. That's a huge piece of what allows a person who's in charge to be able to empower people successfully.
Yep. So if you're listening to this and you want tangible steps that you can take today to start working towards empowering the people around you, taking responsibilities off your plate, these are the steps we suggest. Step 1, if you don't have written job descriptions for everybody, including yourself, write those out. We've said that on probably 7 podcasts.
Yep.
Write out job descriptions of anyone around you. Write out your own. Step 2 with that, look at those job descriptions and see where they cross paths. Let's see where I'm going to be doing the same job as you, and let's see if we can group all of this stuff on your plate,
Right.
all of this stuff on my plate. We don't both need peas on our plate. Let me
And if
own
they-
those and you own that.
If there are job descriptions that do have crossover and they need to be that way, define what's what.
Exactly. When you came on, we were both project managing, but these 3 clients were yours and yours only. These clients were mine, and this is what I do there. Now, on your 3 clients, I had some responsibility, and we had those defined as to what I was going to do and what I wasn't going to do.
Right.
But we knew your job is this, my job is this. So the very first thing, look at job descriptions and make sure that your job description doesn't cross into their responsibilities.
Right.
To where you can let them have their own responsibilities. Now, my job description is to make sure that yours are being executed.
Right.
But that's step number 3, which is we're going to sit down and have weekly reviews, right? So step 1 is write out the job description. Step 2 is really go deep into both yours and their job descriptions to make sure they're separated out and that you're giving them responsibilities that were previously on your plate.
Yeah.
And then step 3 is, all right, Jared, we're going to meet once a week, and these are what you're going to be reviewed on. We actually had sheets. I printed out a piece of paper where you had to fill it out. We'd sit down, and then we fill out the middle part together,
Yeah.
and the bottom part is what's going to happen between now and next week, right? And so we have ways to say, I'm not going to micromanage you every day. You don't have to call in the morning to check in and call at the end of the day to tell me what happened. Let's meet once a week. Every Monday, we're going to look at what happened last week. I'm going to look at the things that you said you're responsible for. This is going to be a coaching session for you to ask questions and for us to help mold. And then what are you doing for the next 7 days? What's this week look like?
And also
How
a place
can I support you?
Also a place that I could say, here's what I need from you.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Between now and next week, I need this from you. Whatever.
And
one of the other things that I wanted to say on the middle step when you're defining the lines, I think one of the things that is really important is, many times over the years, I've looked at you and said, Clark, get out of my kitchen.
Yep.
Right. But I was able to do that because you gave me permission to do that, because you said to me, hey, I have a default that just happens where I will get in your business. I know that about myself, and I will do that. I give you permission to say, hey, get out of my kitchen.
Yeah.
Many times over the years we've said that, and there's been sometimes I've said that and you say, great, I hear that, but we need to talk about
But
this.
I saw this ball drop, and let's talk about, so I can know that this ball won't drop again, what happened there, and let's keep going.
But I think a part of empowering is actually permission.
Yep.
Right? Not only, okay, you're empowered, but then when push comes to shove, I'm actually not.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't have the permission to say, hey, thanks, but no thanks.
Yep.
I got this.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think that's a key piece, is like not only empowering, but giving permission and showing them how that permission is going to work.
Absolutely. I think that is the hardest part of all this.
Yeah.
Right. To have the self-awareness that I don't know everything, even though I know more than you about this.
Yeah.
I don't know everything,
That's
and
right.
you can know more than me sometimes. So having that mindset of I'm open, tell me what you think, push back on me, and let's be able to have those conversations of, hey man, I feel like you're stepping on my toes about this.
Yeah.
And then I don't say, well, that's because you did the blah, blah, but I
Yeah.
say, okay, why was I doing that? Let's think deeper. I was doing that because I felt like this client wasn't getting service. So let's talk about that feeling and why that was happening, right? And so not an argumentative, but let's dissect this together to figure out why everyone is acting the way they're acting in this. Because I stepped in because I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're pissed off because I stepped in, so you feel uncomfortable. So let's dissect it, right? Let's
Yeah.
have that conversation about why that's happening. And
Well, and let's be honest. Sometimes you were right. Most of the time, I was right. Though.
yeah,
So,
most probably something similar to that is true. So cool. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any questions about this, please email us,
Hit us
call
up.
us. We love seeing those when they come in. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
See you then.
Bye.